Okay, my sincere apologies for anybody who's been waiting for me. We're live. We're up. So, anyways, if you have questions for me, now's the time to ask them. Hang on one second. Let me just there we go. Okay, I've got my question box open. I am so sorry. I know exactly what I did wrong. I am massively embarrassed by what I did wrong, but it happens. So I appreciate your patience. So let's get started. Let's have an abbreviated session today of questions that you want to ask me. So let's see, where are my chat questions? Okay. All right, let me get them. All right. Wow, that is unbelievable. I guess just as a quick aside, I traveled to Asia a few weeks ago, and usually when I come back from that type of a trip, I have jet lag for a few days. I've had jet lag now for 2 weeks, and I guess I'm just not at my best because I just have been making dumb mistake after dumb mistake. So, and this was like the dumbest of dumb mistakes. So, anyways, here are questions. So let me answer them for you. Again, if you have a question for me, you can put it in the chat box. If you happen to be watching me on Zoom, you can put it in the chat box there as well. Hang on one more second, and I'm going to start answering your questions for you. So, with that, question number one. I have a registered company in Delaware through a registered agent. What kind of documentation can I expect from the agent? I honestly don't know. Uh, you know, uh, I haven't done this in a long time in terms of registering a company. I don't remember the documentation being huge. You could probably very simply Google it and, or do a chat GPT search or whatever and ask what kind of documentation will I get when I register my company in Delaware. As an aside, registering your company in Delaware, if you're trying to do a C Corp, if you're trying to work with VCs, is exactly the right thing to do because that is it's a very business friendly state to register, and you do not have to be a resident of the state to register your company there. For example, I live in California. Our company was based in California. Where did I register the company? In Delaware, because Delaware is kind of the de facto place to go register your company. So that's what I would recommend. Go register your company in Delaware. That's the best one. That's why. Okay, next question. Where can I get investors or the opportunity to meet investors? Wow, that's such a broad topic. I just did a free training on this last week. I think it was last week. Last week I did a free training on this. So let me give you kind of the synopsis of what to do, because where can you get investors? Well, it's so dependent upon what you're doing and where you are. So you kind of need four things to intersect to be able to get investors. There are four things. So let's start with thing number one. It's, what are you doing? So different investors invest in different things. Investors are not all created equal. So the first thing is, are you doing something that this particular group of investors are interested in? So that's going to narrow the field down. The second thing is, what stage is your company at? Now, probably most of the people listening to this are early stage, just starting out. If you're asking where can I find investors, that's kind of the tell. So you have to find an early stage investors that are interested in what you're doing. Okay, what's the third thing we need? We need early stage investors that are interested in what we're doing and invest in the geography where we're at. So if I live in California, I want investors that invest in companies based in California. If you live in New York, you want investors that invest in New York. If you live in Pakistan, you want investors that invest in Pakistan. You get the idea. So we need this intersection of all these various things, to come together for this to work for us. That's the key, to making this fly, is this combination of things. We need all of them, to work for us to be successful in what we're doing. So we need that combination. I don't think there's a fourth one. I think those are the three. They have to be interested in what we're doing. The check size, the check size also, the stage, which really means check size, that has to be the right amount. So you need this intersection. Interested in what you're doing, your stage, right check size, and the right geography. You need this combination. That's how we find our investors. So now, where do we find these magic investors? Well, there are a few different methods we can use. The first one is your network. Get in the habit of asking every single person that you know, can you help me? You'll be amazed how much your network will grow, especially at the beginning. If you're raising that early funding, most of the time, that funding comes from who? Our friends and our family. Those are our investors at the beginning and our own bank accounts. That's how we get started 90% of the time. So that's the first. So you get in the habit of networking, get in the habit of asking. People turn you down. Do you know anybody else who might be interested? That's how I found my first investor. It works. It's a very simple technique. Second thing we can do is try and figure out who the right investors would be if we're starting to get into angel investing and VC investing. So you can use a tool like Crunchbase, which has probably the largest database of investors out there. You can use that to build a pretty large list of investors. Then from there, you can try and see who you know through LinkedIn. Then the next thing you can do is you can use a tool like hunter.io to help you find the email addresses, and you can email these people, or if you know somebody that knows the specific investor you're going after, that's what you do. So I hope that helps. Let's see what our next question is. Dear sir, God, I'm a sir. Makes me feel so damn old. Well, I have started a e-commerce business to cater the EV parts and accessories. Okay. But it's quite hard to find distributors and to approach OEMs. Any suggestions? Yeah, of course it's going to be hard. You have to have value. And it's really hard because distribution strategy at the beginning, there's nothing wrong with it. I had a distribution strategy when we were starting out. So if you're thinking about distributors, right, there are different tiers of distributors in whatever industry you're in. They're the best of the best. There may be the mid-level, and there may be a third level below that. To get the best of the best to work with you at the beginning is really hard, right? Because they have other options besides you. And you have to think about what's in it for them. What's the value to have you on their line card? Versus all the other companies that they can support. It's not so easy. So you have to have value, you have to have utility, you have to have something that the other companies that they're repping don't have. So there's got to be some value. It also has to be something that's complementary to all the other companies that they're repping. So it has to have a complementary nature, because the early sales, you're going to have to drive those. The distributor, in all likelihood, won't, or the customer is going to drive them, and they'll just be there to pick up the check, so to speak. That's kind of the trick. And you have to find a distributor that's going to take you on, which means that they either don't have something like you or they see utility, in what you're doing. That's the answer to your question. I hope that helps. It's not easy, and it's not a panacea. And even if you do sign up a distributor, you have to work really hard to get them to sell for you. You have to go out with the distributor. You have to get an unfair share of their time to get it to work. You have to do the sales for them at the beginning. And if you're saying, well, that's what I'm hiring them for. Yeah, I know, but this is just the way of the world. that's just the way it is. Okay, the next question we have. Do you think it is easier to get investment from family offices than VCs? I mean to say they seem to be more mission-oriented family offices. I have worked with family offices. I've worked with VCs. It's all a matter of, is what you're doing of interest to the family office or VC? So I'll tell you a quick story about working with Paul Allen and his family office. So through a connection, we got to present to him. Meeting went well, thought they were interested. Then a week later, they came back and passed. Why did they pass? Well, because Paul couldn't get excited by investing in an analog semiconductor company. So I don't know whether it matters. You just have to, if you're going to deal with a family office, it's very similar to dealing with professional investors. In fact, they are professional investors. What you're doing has to be of interest to them. If it's not of interest to them, then they're not going to invest. It's that simple. So that's the answer. That's the answer to this, is it has to be of interest to them. Like, for example, like let's say you're dealing like with a family, let's say it's Paul Allen, right? Software guy, primarily a tech investor. Now, we were in technology, but we were in an area that interested him, so he passed. But let's say we were doing something he completely wasn't interested in, then the odds of him investing in that are going to be close to zero. But let's say because he was a guitar aficionado and we were doing something very interesting in that world, and maybe we had a better guitar or something that was worth billions, he might be interested in that just because that was where his interests lie. So the key with any of these investors, by the way, it's the same with angel investors, it's the same with VCs, is the key to getting them is you have to be doing something that they're interested in. It's very difficult to get the medical device investor to invest in your software startup. That usually doesn't work. And it's the same for family office. So if the head of the family office has expertise in construction, it's great if you're a construction company or something around construction. That's the idea. So look for synergies between you and your investors. Okay, next question. If a big company just launched an innovative idea you were building and saw it as a unique idea, and they launched in one country, so I can't read the next thing. So should we pivot or continue building and competing with them? Keep going. Just because a big company enters your space does not mean they're going to win. I've competed against big companies and beaten them. And I've been the big company and been beaten. I've been on both sides of this discussion. What's the big advantage you have as a small company versus the big company? There are a few. The first advantage you have is that you can move faster than the big company, because small companies just move faster. So if you're nimble and quick, you can pivot, you can adjust, you can do all sorts of things. The second thing is that if you focus properly, and customer selection here is really important, deals that are big for you may not be big for the big company. So you're going to care about these deals a lot more. And you may support the customer in a way that the big company can't. That's the second thing you have going for you. The third thing is related to the second thing. You're going to care a lot more about this business than the big company will, because this is life and death to you. If you fail, you don't eat. If the big company fails, it's just another failed product line. They move back to what they're doing. That's why you can win, for all of these reasons. And if you win big enough, sometimes you know what happens? The big company buys you, because they recognize you have something they don't have. So think of it that way. So you still have a lot of advantages versus them. So if you have questions for me, put them in the chat box. And if you're interested in working with me in a more detailed level, if you're looking for support for your business, because it's lonely out there as a startup CEO, I know this, and you want help and you want support because maybe you've had successful businesses in the past and you really don't know how to raise money, you really don't know how to create a pitch deck, join Zero to Pitch Gold. You can just click the link over my left shoulder and you can be in now in a second, and you could be in my office hours literally in about an hour. So you could do that. If you're first time CEO and you've never created a pitch before and you're wondering what to do, you're getting all this conflicting advice, it's a great reason also to join Zero to Pitch Gold. So with that, let me answer the next question on our list. I changed my business to an LLC. Should I change the business bank account name to an LLC? Probably, I guess. You probably want those to line up. Just a quick aside on having an LLC, there's nothing wrong with it. I think that's smart to do if you're in business because it protects you legally. However, the construction of an LLC, if you're, and I don't know what your goals are, but just for everybody out there, if your goal is to raise funding from angel investors and VCs, you don't want to be an LLC. You want to be a C corp, and the reason for that is just that it's easier to give out stock options and stock as a C corp than it is as an LLC. LLCs are just not organized properly for dealing with those types of investors. If you're just going to stay a private company and you're just going to be a small entity with a small team and you're never going to raise money, then LLC is perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, if you have more questions for me, please put them in the chat box and I will be happy to answer them for you. I've got time for maybe one or two more questions today. I really, again, for those of you who are waiting for me for a bit, total screw up on my part in terms of why I was late getting on our call today. Totally on me. I fall on my sword. It was my fault for what happened. I just didn't press a button. I was wondering, it's like, why isn't this working? And it was just because I did not press a button. So that's what caused the problem. Okay, our next question. How many co-founders, max, are appropriate for an enterprise software startup? Assume co-founders are highly experienced in the industry. How many advisors are appropriate? Okay, so let's answer the co-founder question first and the advisor question second. The answer is totally up to you. The most successful company I have ever been involved in to date is a company, I talk about it all the time, Maxim Integrated Products. They had 10 co-founders. It does not matter whether you have 1 or 10 or 5. There were 5 co-founders, including myself and my company. It really doesn't matter. It's what's right for you. So you said they're experienced people. That's great. So if you have experienced people working with you and they're adding value, then, and this is kind of my little delimiter, you can have your own. And let's say we are pre-funding and they're part of the team, then you can make them co-founders. That's my rule, basically, is if it's before the money comes in, anybody working before the money comes in can be considered a co-founder. They don't have to be working full-time with you, but as long as they're putting in some hours or putting in some effort, it's totally up to you who you consider a co-founder and who you don't consider a co-founder. That's the way that I would go at this. I think it's a super smart, super easy way to do it. And it's super simple. If they're not working, then they're not a co-founder. If they come in after the funding, they're not a co-founder. That's the simple way to go at this. Besides that, essentially there are no other rules. You can pay people and they can be co-founders. It's totally up to you what you're deciding to do. Okay, so then on advisors, I'm leery of having too many voices around me. When I'm starting a business, I maybe want to have 1 or 2 trusted people around me. Having too many advisors is usually a red flag. A little hint for you on advisors, I would not be putting them on my pitch deck because from an investor standpoint, unless you have somebody who just has huge brand equity of their own, then it's not going to help you at all. In fact, it could be looked at as a negative, the fact that you have all these advisors around you. So really look at, is this person going to be adding significant value? That would be my go, no go with advisors. And try and keep it somewhat to a minimum. You don't need tons of people around you telling you what to do, especially for a software startup. Okay, let's go to our next question, if we have a next question coming. Okay, the next question. Do I need a COO for my startup? This is like one of my favorite questions. And my answer is, I'm going to give a broader answer than this, but my answer is no. do not, do not add a COO to your startup. You don't need them. It is a tell, at least from my perspective, it is a tell that you don't know what you're doing if you had a COO at the beginning, because who should be the chief operating officer of your company at the beginning? Chief operating officer typically is the person in the details running the day-to-day operations of your business. Who should that be? That's right, it should be you. So what do you need a COO for? You don't. And to me, the red flags are when I see too many C-level executives at the start of a startup, that to me is a tell that there's a problem. And that maybe something's wrong here because maybe these people really aren't committed to the cause. And that would concern me greatly. So when I see, beyond a CTO and a CEO at the start, when I see a COO, a CMO, a CSO, I don't know what the other C's are, but I remember there was this one company I looked at years ago and had like 8 C-level executives. I asked the CEO, well, who else is on the team? He's nobody. And then my next question was, well, why did you add all these people as C-level executives? It's the only way I could get them to join. Well, there's the tell, right? It's telling you these people really aren't committed. They just wanted the title. If you have to buy people off to get them to join your company right at the beginning, that's a problem. Don't do it. So that's my answer on this, broader than just the COO question. All right, let's see. Do we have any other questions? I'll give you guys another minute or so. I'll answer one more if there's any more questions in the chat box. Okay. Does not look like we have any more questions. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the question. So this is in regard, I was talking about C-level executives. So what about a president? I started this startup with my CEO and I took president position cause me too, I get to make the most decisions. It's the same problem. I don't know the particulars, so I'm giving kind of a general answer here, but to me, it's a red flag. I'm sorry, but a startup doesn't need a CEO and a president. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news on this one, but that just doesn't feel and smell right to me. It's like, why are you there? What are you doing? How many people are in the company? It's probably a small number. So why are you the president? You don't need a president at this stage. You need doers. You need people to be doing things. So if it's a two-person company, the basic rule is we divide and conquer, right? President, CEO does what CEO is good at. You do what you're good at. Hopefully hopefully they're very complementary. You guys talk all the time about what's going on. You help each other out. Who cares what the titles are? As the company gets bigger, you keep dividing and conquering. And you keep communicating in terms of what's happening. That's the smartest way to run your business. But the titles at this stage, you shouldn't care. And I kind of think, as I said, I kind of think that, savvy investors, when they look at companies and they see a CEO, a president, a bunch of C-level executives, it's a tell, and it's not a good tell. Now, there's one other problem with this. The title inflation leads to another problem for you. And the title inflation leads to salary inflation, because now, what are the C-level executives going to hire? Instead of hiring director level people, they're going to hire VPs. We have to pay the VPs more. We have to give them more equity. So suddenly now it becomes an expensive proposition. Who do the VPs hire? Instead of hiring manager level people because they should be directors, they hire director level people. Again, we're paying them more. And the people aren't really director level people because now me as the VP, I'm really a director level person. So I'm going to hire a manager level person. I'm going to pay the person more. I'm going to give them more stock. Everything's inflated. That's the problem here. So it's not only bad, to have these people because they don't deserve the roles. it ends up being for you an inflationary thing in running your business. It costs you money. So that's the thing you want to avoid here. So these are tough things to do. I know it because I know how hard it is to recruit at the beginning when we're starting out. And I know it's hard and it's so easy to do these things, but as best you can, try not to, because it'll pay off for you if you don't. And it will keep you frugal because money is scarce. Don't assume you're just going to be able to raise gobs of money. It's hard to raise money. Each round is supposed to be tough. That's the point. So I hope that helps as an answer. It's a good question, by the way. Okay, do we have any other questions? Give you guys another second. I'm gonna have another drink of water. Next time I'll remember to press the button. Okay. All right, looks like we do not have any more questions today. So I want to thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for their patience who was waiting for me to get on. As I said, totally my fault. I screwed up, so I made a huge mistake. And I will see you again next week. Probably not next Wednesday because I'm traveling next Wednesday, but I'm going to try and do this maybe next Tuesday if I can. So take care, everybody. If you have more questions for me, just pop in next Tuesday. And if you want, as I said, if you're a first-time CEO, never done this before, and you want more help, you really need more guidance, join Zero to Pitch Gold. It's a great group. Just scan that QR code. You could be in my office hours an hour actually talking to me rather than doing this kind of communication. And if you want, if you've been a CEO before, but you've never raised money before and you're wondering what to do, Zero to Pitch Gold is the place for you. With that, thank you all. Take care.